Welcome, everyone. Today we have Carlo from Superteam Germany. Hey,
Hey there, thanks for inviting me. Very excited to be here on the Odyssey podcast.
very cool. Good to have you. Very excited as well. Um, so Max and I have this conversation from time to time about like the state of crypto and the trenches and whatnot. And I usually have the position that most of what's happening this cycle in particular, especially with regards to retail users, happens on Solana. Uh, how do you see that?
I mean, I'm a bit biased since I'm working in Solana, but yeah, I think there's a lot of users, there's a lot of builders, and people like actually working on innovation in our ecosystem. And I think, yeah, we play also a good essential role with the super teams all over the world there because we kind of help and funnel those people and support new startups and new applications, which in the end also attract new users because if there's more things to do, there's more things to use, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's maybe the best intro. Like, most ecosystems have grants programs or builders programs or some sort of like support tracks. But I feel like Superteam is a little unique, and you also have your own community. You create your own content. Could you maybe just like explain for the people that don't know exactly how Superteam works, like how is it architected, and how do the different super teams work, and what do they do?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, from the very easy level, basically, we like to call each other or like the super teams as the talent layer for Solana ecosystem. So we're trying really to focus on like founders, builders, creators who are really trying to bring also a long-term value to the ecosystem. So not much focus on like traders or like meme coins and all that kind of stuff because this is more noise for us, and we're really looking behind innovation and yeah, behind things which are actually which matter on a longer run, basically. So how it works basically is like there's I think now 16 or 17 different countries worldwide where you have those super teams as local hubs, and they really work also on the local level, basically helping people in their different countries to get the first touch points in the ecosystem, find support, find resources. We also have like smaller grant programs and other ways to support those people. A lot is happening in real life, and I think this is also like basically like helping us to funnel people in because yeah, if you host a lot of events, if you bring new people together, especially also you find new ways also to teach them and to get them also hooked in the blockchain sphere. And then yeah, it's as I said, like more local talent hubs, but then we are also like a global network. So whenever there's people from a super team traveling around the world and are visiting other countries where there might be something like super team, then usually we are also very open and having the approach that people are getting connected and are getting the support also wherever they are at this point. So for example, now there's like a lot of things happening in Asia. There's like Korean Blockchain Week. There's Token coming up in Singapore, and so many events. And there, for example, a lot of people have been asking me now, and I've been connecting them with basically the super teams in those regions to get also in touch with their teams during those events.
So you mentioned it's a talent hub, and you want to build kind of like a pool of talent that comes into the ecosystem and builds great tools. It's not so much about meme coins or the casino aspect, right? Without like referencing any single asset in particular, isn't it a fact though that a lot of the trading, like a significant chunk, is around meme coins and the attention of that? So I've seen a few tweets also from Tolly that were rather dismissive of meme coins, and I always ask myself. I mean, I totally understand where it comes from a legitimate builder's viewpoint. It's easy to dismiss something like meme coins. What I'm trying to do is just to like acknowledge what is happening on chain and just like look at it that way. So why do you not look for meme coin builders or like people that build infra for trading meme coins or anything like that? Or do you?
I mean, I think on the infra level, it's a bit a different case. I think there's definitely really cool innovational things getting built also within our community, like trading tools and so on, which we are not necessarily not looking for. But I would say, like, for me, especially, like, with my experience with that, working with Superteam now for 2 years, I felt like if you really focus on like this whole trading atmosphere and like this part of crypto, it's like getting a bit more noisy and people are a bit more, yeah, there's like too much chaos happening, I would say. And I mean, obviously, like meme coins and like what's happening in this whole yeah, pump fund ecosystem, for example, is like a big part of Solana, and there's a lot of volume and so on happening, which also in the end has its positive aspects for the chain, also a lot of negative. But I just think it's not the way we should look too deep into as super teams, because we're really more behind the innovation. So if there's like tools which are getting built which can reflect like, hey, why are those coins maybe better than others and so on, that's something we definitely also support, but it needs to be really on the building level and not on the just trading part.
Is there an overarching goal for Solana Super Team to achieve? A few days ago, I listened to the episode on, I think it's When Shift Happens, where Lily Liu, the president of the Solana Foundation, was on. And I mean, like, while she made a very strong case for Solana, it was essentially like the vision of it. It's just this, I mean, idea of crypto and L1s that has been around for years, that it's the backbone of modern financial infrastructure. Whereas if you look more at the micro level of the people who are heavy users, active users of the chain, Solana, in contrast to ETH, I would argue, especially over the past 12 to 18 months, has been heavily short-term speculation and like trading focus. Not to put that in a bad light. I mean, both Owner and I are like big speculation and enjoyers in our like personal stuff as well. But like, is there a clear positioning that you try to achieve with Super Team regarding to Solana, and yeah, how do you structure initiatives according to that?
I mean, yeah, I think that's a little bit the part where I said also it's more the noise part, this whole speculation bubble. So yeah, our goal, and like I think we're achieving this already, but this is also like still the long-term goal, is really to raise sustainable long-term startups and companies in the ecosystem. And I think that being said, like this is like very much on-chain, like heavy still, like it's still just people who are like from from the early days on Solana building there, or like newcomers on Solana building there. But there is like also shifts in a more institutional direction where everything is being said to be a little bit more professional, a little bit less degen, I would say. But yeah, it's like in the long run, I can't really tell. In the short run, I agree there's some things which are a bit more yeah, on the speculation base. But I think from like seeing startups coming also through super teams and like in our community, but also other countries, there's definitely a lot of cool companies which are very successful nowadays and which are not just on the speculative level.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is super interesting. I've been on both sides, to be quite honest with you. Like, spending almost a decade in this space. I think the infrastructure and the nature of these like permissionless networks and all the great tech that is built is very, very compelling. And then at the same time, you have these opportunities to reinvent financial transactions which didn't really exist before, and which allow you to price, again, like new forms of interactions, which I find super exciting as well, without like naming any specific projects. Or you can if you want, but like, what are existing type of projects that you're seeing that you find interesting? And for the average user, people are familiar with phantom wallet, decentralized exchanges, maybe prediction markets, maybe oracles, but that's really about it. I think like yeah, pump fund, obviously you mentioned, which is a launch pad. So launch pads, I think I also count in that category. But like, are there any other applications you're seeing being built right now that you find interesting?
Yeah, I mean, like I would say Now I'm not sure if I should mention companies or not. I would say like especially on like payments level, there's a lot of stuff happening. Like stable coins, I guess, is a very hot topic in general also nowadays. And there's like some really cool projects also coming out of our community. I would just mention one, which is my absolute favorite at the moment, and they've been pretty successful in the past months, which is Reflect Money. So they're basically building yield-bearing stable coins. They started also with a core team of 4 people, and they're like all from different super teams. So we have a Germany member, like someone from Superteam Poland, from UK, basically like a cross-country collaboration with really good founders. And they won first in the Colosseum Hackathon, then they went through the A16Z accelerator, now raised a 3.75 million seed round, also with A16Z as a lead. And they're like still pre-launch, or like now in beta, I think, and are like already getting like tons of traction. I think in general, like stablecoins are just something which is a bit feasible, and like people can understand a little bit more why they should use crypto over like normal banks, because it's just faster, cheaper, more transparent. But yeah, this is just an example. Then I think also a way different perspective, like on a ZK level, so privacy and encryption. There's some great examples. Also, German company Arcium is building already since a while. They started before with just like ZK transactions, elusive, and now rebranded and are building like a whole infrastructure around ZK technology. So there's definitely some cool companies also coming out of different levels, or like not just the speculation trenches part.
Can you dive a little deeper into the hackathons that Superteam is organizing? Like, how do they work? What usually happens with the companies afterwards? Because, like, I think in broader crypto Twitter, whenever I've heard of Superteam, I think it's mostly been in the context of Superteam hackathons.
Yeah, happy to. This is also like one of my main things which I'm focusing on right now, because the next hackathon is upcoming literally in 10 days. So how it works is basically Colosseum is like the main platform for Solana hackathons. So this is like it's like a spin-off from the foundation. So they used to be run from the foundation back then in the days, and then at some point Colosseum came out, which is led by the team which did the hackathons also back in the days. And they are hosting those global hackathons usually around 5 weeks to 6 weeks. So it's like a little bit longer than just like an over weekend hackathon or something like that. It's a global hackathon, so everyone from everywhere of the world can participate. And I think the approach in general with those hackathons is also that it's a bit more about like actually building a startup. So it's not just a small, hey, let's build a quick MVP and jump on to the next hackathon, get some prize money basically, and do something new in the next one. It's rather like a venture-ton or like venture launchpad. So they really have the goal to raise like long-term startups there. Of course, not everyone can succeed. This is like always a little bit the bummer also. But what happens in those hackathons and where Superteam steps in is basically that we are really trying to activate the local talent. So whenever there's like a global hackathon, we are like preparing lots of events, from like idea finding back like in the early days to like basically getting teams together and supporting those builders to go through this hackathon journey with like all of our resources, with the support from mentors and workshops and so on. And then we are doing a lot also there in person. So basically most of the events like those ideathons are in person. Then we're hosting like online workshops as well, which we are streaming basically, where people can like also see those recorded resources similar to what we are doing here right now and watch them later. And then the longer we are in this period, the more intense it gets. And usually like in the end of those hackathons, we have like a phase which is called Build Station, and that's like in person. The last 2 weeks is what we're usually doing it. In-person hackathon with like everyone coming together, like getting mentors in there, giving the teams feedback and supporting them really to like nail their submissions basically until the end of the submission window. And then after the submissions are done, we're doing like a big demo day, which is also like in person. So we are helping those teams to also understand, hey, there's like the global hackathon, and you should all submit there. But we also have like, since we are doing this local activation, we are also having like a kind of local demo day with some extra prizes just for the teams from each country, basically. So for us, it would be like just German teams. So whoever is like submitting to the hackathon from Germany and is like joining Superteam basically, and our build station and the demo day, and pitches there, is also eligible for those local prizes. So this is like a little mechanism how we are also attracting some new builders from the country and are helping those who are working on projects to get incentivized and get some more support.
How crypto friendly do you find Europe and Germany in particular, especially for builders?
That's a good question. I mean, Germany, not that much, I would say. I think there's still, I'm not too deep into like regulation topics and so on, but like there's still a lot of barriers. I've already seen a couple of founders and teams basically moving out of Germany, which we supported from the early days because they didn't want to incorporate here because of certain laws like exit tax and so on. So yeah, I think there's still quite some difficulty coming with that, but yeah, I hope that we can move to brighter days with that, and not all the good teams are going to SF at some point to really crush it. Like, I think we're still not there, but let's hope that we can also build some ground steps and make this a bit more friendly.
Totally agree. It's such a pity that you have all this talent, which is a European accelerationist essentially, but they just don't want to waste their life fighting a continent as opposed to just building out their idea. And I feel like in a couple years Europe will be there, but it's just not worth fighting that fight unless that becomes your identity or something. And then the other thing you mentioned, which I found interesting, is you mentioned stablecoins. And I feel like, I mean, stablecoins are, I feel like this is the cycle of stablecoins anyways. And it's kind of everything crypto infrastructure enabled except the speculation and gambling aspect. What type of stablecoin products are you seeing? And like, could you give your mental model of how you see stablecoins, all the way from like issuance to tools that are being built to, I don't know, applications or whatever else you're seeing?
I can give a little picture about that, but first I wanted to touch on the first part, which you said with Europe. So yeah, that's actually a good point. Like, I think Europe is not there yet, although I would say still we are having a good success with startups coming out of Europe. So for example, I think in the past 2 Colosseum hackathons, it was almost half of the winning teams actually from European super teams, like compared with every other super team on the world. So we still show some great success there, I would say. And then it's
how many participants are from Europe, just to compare that winning ratio?
I don't have the exact numbers in mind, but definitely not that much, because like usually the highest participation numbers are coming from India, US, Africa, Asia. Like, it's usually not Europe. So we are really quality over quantity, I would say. So for example, in Germany, we usually have like an average from like 4 to 6 global winners. And that's only like on 50 or 60 total submissions in Germany. And then some countries have like I don't know, hundreds of submissions, but only driving in 1 or 2 winners maybe.
Max is waiting to make a cheeky comment, but Max, please behave.
I'll shut my mouth.
Now back to the stablecoin topic. I'm like also not too deep in there, but I think like, I mean, what is a cool thing about stablecoins and like those applications being built on blockchain is actually the yield you can earn. And like, this is something I even discussed with someone from a traditional bank, where you can never ever earn so much of just like putting your money on the side and like leaving it there. And then you have stablecoins where, I don't know, usually you earn up to, I don't want to name numbers I'm not too aware of, but you can earn definitely a lot of yield and can basically let your money sit somewhere and just make it grow a bit more, and don't even have to speculate or invest into assets which are a bit volatile. So that, for example, then of course like remittances, that you can send money like into countries where people maybe don't even have bank accounts and no opportunities. So if you want to send money back home to your families, we have a project coming out of the last hackathon. They're building a remittance project also with like the main between like Europe and Colombia, for example, where a lot of people don't have access to bank accounts or money. Same for Nigeria. There's also like a company, a project which actually even won in the hackathon. In the last hackathon, which was also a German project, and they are building that barrier between Nigeria and the German market. So I think, just seeing how actually there's ways to change original problems or like patterns which were never solvable through normal banking through crypto. This is like something which helps me the most to understand that, because that actually, it matters basically when you know that you can support your family now with a new technology, and no one can control that. Like no one can just shut down those transactions because of whatever banks have in mind.
Now, listening to that description, it seems like a lot of the stablecoin projects on Solana are more on the side of looking for like actual real world payment flows and transactions. So kind of returning to the original idea of bringing stablecoin and crypto to the masses as a better P2P network. On the Solana DeFi side, like I'm personally very active in like DeFi yield syndicates and yield farming and all of that stuff. And over the past, let's say 3-4 weeks, or maybe let it be 1 to 2 months, we've seen a little bit of a DeFi resurgence in Solana, especially after the vibes around meme coins have dampened down a little bit, and like people were looking to do other stuff. Like, how would you view the DeFi landscape in Solana right now? Is that something where you see a lot of new projects build in the Superteam hackathons, and like once they are live, let's take the big ones, let's say Camino, Jupiter, etc., Meteora. Are you still day to day in touch with these, or are these like mostly separate and completely autonomous from like the Solana Foundation, Solana Superteam, and all of these entities?
I mean, so and so, I would say. I told it Ono the last time when we saw each other privately that I'm actually probably not the biggest user or not too deep into all those things, because I just don't find the time. I'm like very occupied with like communications and all the work I'm doing basically on the community level. But there's definitely like bigger projects also coming out where we are like in touch with, and like are seeing if there's like good ways also to work with each other. Basically, what helps like us with super teams most is, for example, like if there's like a big infrastructure DeFi project, for example, which wants to like attract new builders or want to like help people to use the APIs and so on, then something we are like trying to host workshops around that are, or like hackathon tracks, like side tracks for the global hackathon, so people can actually make use also of the technology which was built and understand how to integrate it in maybe their own small applications. On the user level, as I said, I'm not too deep into there, but I think there's a lot of people in our community also who are using those bigger projects and are always looking also to give feedback and that kind of stuff. So there's definitely communication between those projects and us also. On the foundation level, I don't know either that much.
I have two questions, but I want to start with one in particular. How important do you think is the SOL price with regards to growing the ecosystem?
Good question. I would say, and I'm always saying this, but maybe some people see it different. For me, it doesn't matter if SOL is at $20 or 200. Even now, over 200, it's getting more noisy. There's more people getting washed into the ecosystem, more people getting attracted to Superteam, which are maybe not really our target audience. So I remember when I started to work at Superteam, we were at the $20 levels, and it felt to me it was a more organic, healthy community of dedicated builders. And now,
Yep.
obviously, there's big waves of people coming in and
Yep.
a lot of attraction there, but not always the best people coming in now.
Yeah, no, it totally resonates. I remember when I was more active building in Cosmos, I had a debate with someone building on Solana on whether Solana is dead or not, and no, it was just a time where FTX happened and SBF was arrested and the Sol price tanked to below $10, that unexpected price. And he just invited me to a hackathon. He said, like, hey, like, just come to this hackathon. It was in Berlin. And I was like, sure. And I went there and it was full. It was a full room of mostly dudes, and they were all hacking and coding. And like, I was like, that's insane. Like, I've never seen that in Cosmos. And that's when I knew, okay, very, very interesting. Like, people seem to not care about price or anything like that. Most people seem to just like build because they like the ecosystem. I was a little bit biased when I went to one of the Solana conferences, and the vibe was more VCs and like speculators and traders. Instead of like DEF CON, for example, which was mainly like builders and protocol designers, at least in the early days. I think now it's changed as well. But yeah, no, I find it super interesting. I actually believe it. I think it might even be a net negative, the price going up, because you have way more dilution.
Yeah. Like, I think that hackathon you're mentioning must be Grizzlyton, Build Station 2023, February, around that time.
I think I don't remember, but yeah, it could be.
It was like a 5-week-long build station. So this was the first build station we ever hosted, and it was like completely insane. Like 5 weeks in through at W3 Up. It was also the first touch point for me, actually. Like, I joined Superteam in that build station as like a community member, and then a few months later basically got onboarded to the team. And yeah, it was quite interesting. I was also very surprised because, yeah, I would have told like vibes are down. Like, I think Sol tanked more than every other ecosystem from this crash. But yeah, I think there was a pretty interesting metric which I saw also then at some point, where you could see like the inflow of like developers coming to Solana after this crash was like 5x or something. Like, there was so many new people coming to build on the chain, even though the sentiment was not the best and everyone was like shitting it on X and like was like saying, hey, this is dead, basically. I remember it really, really good. And yeah, it was for me super, super interesting. And then about the conference, I don't know, I've not attended the very, very early ones. Like, my first breakpoint was in Amsterdam, end of 2023. And then last year, Singapore. And then this year I will go as well. But for me, I think I've also not been to DEF CON, so I can't really tell. But I think usually from my perspective, those Solana events are definitely my favorite conferences I've traveled to. So if I compare it with something like Token 2049, for example, it was way, way, way less chilly, or like KOLs or VCs also I didn't felt too much. It was rather like builders, people from ecosystem projects, people looking for valuable connections, and not that many just creeps which are walking around and trying to sell you something. So I really had always a good vibe. But yeah, I'm also, with my position, I think it makes it a bit biased. And I've been like in the ecosystem for over 2 years now, so I know a lot of people, and then it's also a little bit like a family class trip, something like that.
Speaking of the like price changes, etc., and the sentiment shift, is that something that you feel in your day-to-day work with Superteam? Like, has anything significantly changed in the interactions you have with hackathon applicants and builders or projects that you interact with? Let's say if you compare Q4 2024, where everybody was super hyped about Solana and it was like the new consensus bet, versus let's say the summer months of this year, where everybody was frustrated about like extraction in the meme coin trenches and like Solana sort of being framed as this, yeah, there's only meme coins and speculations going on there. Like, to what extent do these rather short to midterm sentiment shifts reflect in your work?
To be honest, not that much, and I'm very happy about that, because like, I think this is something we've been kind of clear from beginning on, and somehow organically never had that much problems with, like, that people are actually talking about prices or like complaining about a few things, like this whole meme coin casino aspect and so on. So people know pretty well like what Superteam is doing, and so they are also not trying to put any other labels on us, basically, and are not putting us in touch or like in the same label with those like like for example extraction models and so on. But yeah, there's like always, of course, sentiments going around in the community, which I think is a bit more like a thing where I'm getting a bit worried. I mean, it's certainly for Solana, I think also a good thing, but like this whole more looking onto an institutional level and like this kind of shift is definitely a bit, or like from my perspective, rather something where I feel like, hey, like we have always had like a very vibey community. It's been like really about like developers and like those builder vibes and all that kind of stuff. And now that we're looking into like a bit more like, yeah, like everything is getting a bit more professional, institutional, and so on. That's rather something where I see some people are maybe not that happy with it, and some like OG people from our community feel like, hey, this is not their vibe or not their super team. Although like people are not frustrated or anything, but I can see that there's some yeah, some changes in the community around that, I would say. More than
whole-
like in any terms of like, hey, like Solana is, or like there's things which are extracting stuff from the ecosystem, or like anything to the meme coins or trading related.
Since you mentioned the maturation of crypto as a whole, and like some of the OG people kind of not wanting to hang around in this industry anymore, would you say that Solana is still one of the retail driven ecosystems, or is it more institutions taking over? For example, I mean, I'm mostly active in Ethereum DeFi, and there it has very much shifted towards like a pro tail, like very DeFi power user and institution heavy audience. I mean, you still have retail around, but basically nobody is really building for these people anymore, unless you're talking about L2s like Base and what we're trying to do with the Base app, etc. But like on the things that carry size, volume, and like a lot of TVL on ETH, it's been a very institutionally geared focus. And also, if you look at the discussions on crypto Twitter, people are talking about integrations of crypto into whatever investment banks. People are talking about DATs. So is that sentiment affecting Solana at all, or is it still very grassroots retail? We build for the people driven.
I think we are like in a kind of mixture between that right now. Like there's definitely still retail, there's definitely still this kind of grassroots DAO sentiment, which we are also trying obviously to hold up and do with super teams. But yeah, there's definitely also no doubt about that. There's like a bit more like an institutional push, also like from foundation side. I think they're trying to yeah, be better on that side. And like yeah, there's like things which people are saying like, hey, Solana is gonna become Nasdaq and all of that kind of stuff. So there's definitely more towards that direction, but we're like still in a good mix, and I hope we are staying also in a balance, because I think this whole like ecosystem spirit and vibe, especially for me, and I know a lot of people from our community, is also very important. And I think this is also a little bit like more the mission of Super Team than just like this whole bigger picture with institutions and so on. But
In
that's
terms of
also
the
my perspective as like a community builder and like being in touch and around like people and leading those
I think
conversations.
I think like both owner and me would largely agree on that, or would you differ? Like I personally think that out of all the chains right now, like the L1s, Solana is the most active in terms of like actually having retail users and kind of yeah, doubling down on the degen spirits. I think in terms of ETH L2s, maybe you could view Base as the closest competitor, even though it's probably a little more US centric due to the relationship with Coinbase. But yeah, like all the other stuff, like the alt L1s, there's not that much activity going on. Like I wouldn't declare them dead necessarily. Like you still see a bit of stuff from like Avalanche here and there, but it's not like that dominating in the discussions and attention it's getting compared to Solana or ETH1 or Base.
Yeah, no, for sure. I've seen also shifts also happening. Like I know that Base is also tackling here Europe a bit more. Like they're definitely like they are on their path to launch similar hubs and similar things like we're doing with Super Team, and also in some other ecosystems. So we have seen a lot of other ecosystem, like taking pictures and trying to like break it a little bit down what we are doing. And honestly, I think this is also good because it makes sense, and it will grow also the bigger picture if we have more on the ground support and more other ecosystems which are doing things which are enabling people more to go to market with their products and so on. So I think it's really, really relevant, and I like to see the shift that also ecosystems, and even if it's competition, like I think competition is very healthy and important. So I have met, for example, the base country lead from Germany, like just last week at the conference, and we had like a pretty cool chat and so on. And they were like, "Hey, yeah, base is like the builder ecosystem and the best builder ecosystem and so on." And I'm like, "Hey, probably you're gonna work on that, but I'm not sure if it's that yet." A bit biased also with my perspective, since we are actually like working a lot with builders, and especially in person. I think we made our job right over the past years.
I really think Solana and Superteam's contribution needs to be studied. And I mean, I'm just saying that because, again, like working in crypto for so long, it's not that easy to dethrone Ethereum from a retail application innovation perspective. I think Ethereum is far from dead, and it has a ton of liquidity. It's amazing. It functions. It serves its purpose well. But Solana coming out of nowhere, so to speak, a couple of years ago, and being where it is today, I really think needs to be studied, because literally every L1 ecosystem has tried that and has failed. And I would argue that if you cut basis funding, which is never going to happen, but hypothetically, it will die. Maybe not, but like I think it's very, very artificially pushed, which is a fair strategy, because I think that's how you meme it into existence, and at some point it will be big enough to sustain on its own. But Solana, for some reason, just like it just happened. And again, like I was never deep into Solana until you couldn't avoid it anymore. It was like everywhere, and every new application that has had some form of innovation was Solana first. And I remember like one Alliance DAO founder, I don't know if she or Imran tweeted something along the lines of like, at this point, it would be like irresponsible of us not recommending founders to launch on Solana first, right? Like you always have these cycles where, there's like Base now, or there's like Blast ecosystem, or hey, like you should look at Sonic. But then these are like massive risks, as opposed to just picking the obvious established one that just keeps growing as an ecosystem and in terms of users, which is Solana. So I couldn't avoid it anymore, and I just like joined, and I was like, oh wow, like I was blind in my Ethereum bubble. This is very interesting. That was my experience, and now I'm like, yeah, I love the Solana ecosystem.
I appreciate it. But yeah, I think it was a bit similar for me, because I came more from like Ethereum, although this was not like too much on the builder side or anything. It was just like me learning about crypto, getting in there, trading some NFTs and all that kind of stuff. But I was like, I remember like 2022, I was shitting on Solana. I was like, yeah, what is this even? Like Solana summer? Like I was just drugged all the time, and I had no idea, and nothing made sense. But once I started to meet people and like actually this in-person community, and I think especially that hackathon, which we were talking about earlier, GrizzlyTon 2023, it just changed the whole picture for me, because I don't think I've ever went on any events where I felt so warmly welcomed, where I was like, hey, you maybe don't have like from the technology wise, or like you're not a developer or anything, you don't have things to contribute there, but maybe on a different level. So whatever person you are and whatever skills you bring with, there's like a place where you can start in Solana, I think. And this is something which changed the whole picture for me. And this is why I got super hooked. And then at some point, probably also being lucky in the right time at the right place, was asked also to contribute even more and join Superteam. And this basically accelerated the journey also a bit more than for me. But I think there's many of those stories and many people I met also which came from nothing and went super successful through our community. And this is like, for me, also amazing to see.
I mean, I know of people who so first of all, I don't think Cosmos is a bad ecosystem. I think Cosmos is a good ecosystem, but I don't think Cosmos sets founders up for success. And there are a few examples that I have of founders who were building in Cosmos, building with the SDK, building with CosmWasm, that failed. And they moved to Solana. And again, like, regardless of the actual amount, I'm just saying it to kind of like put it in perspective. Their first 6 months, they made 10 million in like fees of their protocol. And I just, for me, that's just so telling. And this is not like an outlier. This is not like just one example. This is actually a theme. And I asked myself, how is it that we in Cosmos cannot succeed and cannot make that happen? And it's really hard to answer, but regardless of the answer, it's just the fact that is happening on Solana. And I think Solana is the best ecosystem for new founders to succeed. I think it has the highest chance of success. Like, there's only one reason to not go on Solana, and that is obviously very strategic alignment with a foundation of another chain, right? Like, if you have extreme strong alignment with Coinbase or with Avalanche Foundation or with, you name it, Ethereum, EF, of course, like, it makes sense to align with them and deploy on that ecosystem. But if you kind of like are a grassroots founder who starts fresh, I still think Solana is the best ecosystem today to build. And that doesn't mean that you have to stay there forever. I mean, in fact, I don't even have that box thinking in terms of it's Solana versus anything else. Like, at some point, obviously, we're going to have abstractions, and people, like, even Phantom Wallet is a great example, right? Phantom Wallet has built their perps product on Hyperliquid and not on Jupyter, which I think is a big deal. But I think this is a good example of, you just go with the best use case for the use case, basically. And that was a long rant. I don't know where I'm going with this, but mainly agreeing with what has been said.
Yeah, but also there I can only agree. And I think this is also something I learned, even though I'm very much in this one ecosystem. Tribalism is never something which helps you to succeed. I think whenever we are successful founders and like they want to expand to other ecosystems, I think there was not any case where I said, hey, no, you should stay on Solana. I was always like, yeah, definitely go for it and see also what happens on the other ecosystems and so on. And I mean, obviously, I want to have people build here, but that doesn't mean that they cannot move around and do also other things. And I think it's really, really important to think more on a long run, global and cross-chain level, and really go out there and go for the bigger picture, and not just for, yeah, you stay here and you do only this and this and this, because this will never help anyone, I would say.
What's next for you and for Superteam? Like, besides the day-to-day initiatives and hackathons and conferences, what are you trying to achieve with, as the community lead of Superteam? Like, what's your goal?
That's a good question. It's always hard to think long term because there's always so many things happening in the short run. I think now it's fully war mode on. Like, the hackathon is like at least until end of October the biggest picture. But yeah, in general, like, it's always about like kind of growing the community, but also checking, hey, who's actually like actively involved, who's not. We have like a member space, which is a bit more the core community. I would say I'm handling it very inclusive in general here. So for us, like, I'm treating members definitely well, but also treating everyone else very well. Like, some other countries are doing it a bit more inclusive, exclusive, and like members are like the top notch, and everyone else is like sometimes being ignored and so on. Like, I'm really trying to focus on everyone and helping most of the teams and founders. But yeah, I think growing and working on that, as always. seeing what could be also new ways to support people. I think that's also something like we've been spinning around and replicating things which we have been doing successfully over the past 2 years. And sometimes it's also great to come up with new initiatives and new ways to support and do those things. And yeah, just learn from also what happens in other ecosystems. As I said, I was last week with this base lead and was starting a little espionage on a build on base workshop to see what they're planning and what's happening there. And I think we can only learn from each other. So I'm happy also if those people from other ecosystems are getting in touch and asking questions and are learning from our learnings, and the other way around. And
Okay, so you mentioned membership, and I think most people perceive Superteam as this like crazy privileged thing, but so people can actually join, yeah? People can actually like apply and join. And how does that work? Like what responsibilities does this bring and what privileges do come with it?
Yeah, so I mean, as I said, I'm a bit more like the inclusive than exclusive person because I don't like to exclude people, I think. It's just a personal thing. But yeah, it's basically handpicked more or less at this point because we are quite close to the barrier. Like we are always like having place for 150 members basically in our
Okay.
community. It's like I think it's called the Dunbar number or something, and it's like made of like something like this is actually a group of people you can control and having them all engaged without losing, because if it's getting too much then it's also hard to have touch on that. But yeah, so it's like more or less handpicked, but like we are usually looking for people who are like successfully growing startups. For example, hackathon winners are always getting onboarded in the as a member. Our grantees and people who are just like been around and been in touch and supportive for long enough. So even if it's like someone who comes to a couple of events and hosts workshops or mentors teams, that's a potential membership there. Like it really depends. Like it's also a little vibe check sometimes. So if there's like a feeling around someone who's just noisy and not really a good add-on to the community, then that person will probably not be a member. But if it's like someone who's like very open to help and to be also in touch with the other people, in the end, we really want, or like this is the original idea. I don't think that it's really achievable, but like the core idea of Superteam was like, hey, you build up a community, and at some point they will be like all self-engaged with each other, and you don't even need like a core team putting out the other pictures. But I think this is a dream and not really possible. I think without us as a core team, it would be very, very much difficult. But yeah, I think like for us in general, like although we have grown so much in the past years, it's still like the biggest goal is growing the spirit around the builders, helping people to support each other. Also, like what I just said, I think it's still very, very heavy lifted on our team, but like ideally the more people support each other also and the less is just on our hands, the better.
Yeah, no, fully agree. Can you send me this 150 people number and where the like philosophy comes from? That sounds very interesting. I'm generally like I'm very interested in community building. I think like we are entering a phase in the world where being able to successfully manage a Discord server is more important than working in Wall Street, for example. You know what I mean? Like I feel like people underestimate and always belittle this, community management, but community is so important. It's all what it is about, especially with Gen Z. Like all I'm seeing is community memes, and not so much this like traditional way of building and growing. But anyways, no, super interesting.
Funny aspect there, since you mentioned Discord, we gave up Discord for us, at
Yeah.
least in Germany. I think some super teams are still using Discord, and it was like our main channel where we handled everything in the beginning. Now it's like fully Telegram and in person, basically.
I use Discord just as a synonym for a venue where community happens, because It can be a Slack, it can be a Telegram, it can be like an X group or X community or wherever. It can be like a real world hackathon. It's just to say that, yeah, like, people stream on Twitch or on PumpFun, and people communicate in Discord. I mean, did you see that Nepal voted via Discord? I don't even actually know. I didn't verify whether this is true, but it would make perfect sense to me.
I think it is true. I haven't really looked into it, but like I saw
Yeah.
so many tweets about it. Like that was a crazy thing over
And
the
then
weekend.
imagine like Germany using. I mean, again, this is also not to shit on everyone shits on Germany, so I don't really want to benefit from that. But so were you in Germany when the recent alarm probe happened? September 11th. What a great date to pick. Anyway, so there was this like nationwide alarm, which was obviously a test alarm. And I know a couple people who work in the government, and I know a couple people who work for like critical radio stations, that when shit hits the fan, they can communicate with the nation, so to speak, via radio. And it's literally based off like fax messages that they get from the government, right? And that compared to like a Discord vote is just like wild to me. Not judging. It's just like makes sense, Germany, conservative, like old nation versus newer nations. But even there, like Estonia has a CTO, like the country has a CTO. Like I think that's also very telling. But yeah,
we are still a bit behind, but that's nothing new, I guess, at this point. And the alarm, I was actually a bit scared because it hit off at the conference, like TUM Blockchain conference, and you can imagine if there's a lot of people around you and like everyone's just like on alarm mode, was a little bit crazy.
Yeah, for sure. Amazing. No,
Maybe
that's very cool.
Before we close, because Solana just went through a pretty big launch of the Seeker phone. They started shipping them out. I still haven't opened and set up mine, but I got it like a week or two ago. Do you have any perspective on crypto moving to mobile, and like as how important is it viewed within the Solana ecosystem and the super teams?
Yeah, I'm curious, honestly, how good it will do. I remember the Saga phone was a bit a different topic and a bit harder to sell out until there was like some big airdrops announced. Now Seeker was doing way stronger, and I think they also delivered a way better product. I think there's like a big Solana mobile hackathon also where like a lot of people are shipping applications and are working on products. So also curious to see the outcome there, and also to learn a little bit more about users and like how actually that whole mobile adoption is like going further in the future. I think it's a very interesting approach, and I think if they are continuing with that, they can also land some really good success. I mean, the Seeker sold, I think, something between 150 to 200K devices, which is like a 10x from like the Saga phone, which had hard times to sell out. So definitely already a good success here. And I know that Toli and in general, like Solana Labs also is like way more focused on that whole mobile phone application layer now. So yeah, I mean, I've been testing around a little bit, but also not too deep. I unboxed it at least, and I think it's definitely a better product and way more usable. I want to see numbers and compare a little bit before I give a too precise outlook here. But I think it's definitely an interesting approach, and I think there again, Solana kind of came out with a new concept, and trying out new things is never something bad, and can always help to bring also new success there. I will make sure to send you a link. We are gonna ship like a Superteam Germany Seeker phone case, so you can get your
Nice.
phone protected soon, and it has a very nice design.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that, I mean, it just fits very well into how Solana is currently positioned in terms of like the applications, the community, etc. I couldn't see the stuff that is being used heavily on ETH, like let's say like all the more complex DeFi things being done on mobile. Like there's just no intuitive reason for that to switch over and away from a laptop. But the more retail focused things, especially if you're building out a lot of P2P payment stuff, and then the kind of crypto social, crypto consumer, everything regarding pump.fun streaming or whatever, and like gambling on meme coins with your friends. I mean, you're not gonna like take out your laptop if you're sitting at dinner with 5 friends and suddenly start talking about that stuff. But if it's accessible on your phone, it's just reducing friction a lot, and especially for these yeah, high volume but like low value transactions, I think it's a very, very good medium to explore.
Yeah, I can agree here. I mean, I'm personally a bigger mobile user than my computer. Like, I use my laptop obviously for work and meetings and all that kind of stuff, but like most of the time I try to keep it mobile. And I think the more mobile friendly and the better apps we get also to be used on phones, the more it will help also
Yeah.
something like
So I worked in mobile before joining crypto blockchain. This was like, I don't know, 15, 12 years ago. And back then there was still something called Windows Phone, or like Windows Mobile. And by now, we know it failed. And yes, in between there was like BlackBerry and stuff. But I really think, like, if this phone succeeds, it would be wild to me in the sense that like iOS and Android as platforms already exist, and this is Android based, right?
Yeah, it's Android.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. But like, I just want good apps that are secure. Like, I don't care about a phone being branded as this ecosystem unless it comes with hardware primitives that don't exist in traditional like for example, if I can use my phone as it's a weird example, but if I can use my phone as like a proof of stake validator because of the technology, and it just has to be on, and I have like a validator in my pocket, maybe something like that could be interesting. But other than that, I'm actually like, I don't want my phone or anything that I use in the real world to be like crypto referenced or related. I just want it to be the most normal thing ever. And then I have my kind of like crypto apps or experience that I can open if I need to. Also, like, I think, Pump Fun, they're going to optimize for Android and for iOS, but I wonder at which point they would actually do something seeker specific, which I don't even know if that is a thing. Like, is the phone able to do like something that a normal phone cannot do?
I mean, like, the apps are Android based, so I think probably most of the other Android phones should be able to do things as well. Although you have like the seed vault and everything around that, so there's some limits which you won't have with a normal phone, which you can break with that phone.
Okay. So for signing stuff, it replaces like a hardware wallet, basically.
Exactly, and it is a fully integrated hardware wallet, basically. So no, it's like, I think that seed wallet, like, they made also a really big update from the last one to this one. Like, it's very clean. Like, Max, once you unbox it and you go a bit through that, you will notice it's a very smooth onboarding, I would say.
So honestly, then I think I would almost use it as a wallet. Like, it's the better wallet.
Yeah,
I wouldn't use it as my main phone. I would still use my.
That's kind of how I view it myself too. Like, it's just a phone for doing crypto stuff, and
So it's a wallet.
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
and you can
I
use
don't
like
expect it to compete with like an iPhone 16 Pro or like whatever iPhone I have. Like, also, like, I wouldn't want to switch away from the Apple ecosystem because I have an iPhone, iPad, Mac, etc. But I mean, it's just to make crypto stuff more accessible, and I think for that, it's going to be like an interesting vertical.
More secure, also, it sounds like. Like, I would say things are accessible already, but this sounds way more secure if you have offline signing.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think it really also depends on the user. Like, I mean, I can tell for the three of us, we are probably all very biased iOS users, and I don't know, I wouldn't touch an Android as my daily phone as well anymore. Like, I did that in the past and I learned my lessons. So for me, also, like, obviously I'm way more iOS over Android, and I would not use it at my daily phone. But for like for example, in our community, people are building also products. They're also building like applications for Seeker. So I can test those things. I can use them on the phone. I can give them feedback. I can use it as a wallet. Like there's definitely things I can play around with for me with that phone laying at my place at home. I also would like to keep it at home because it's a Solana branded product. Nowadays, there's anyways a bit more focus also by criminals on crypto stuff. So I don't want to run around with a phone where everyone can see like, hey, this is a Solana phone. Maybe he has a lot of money. So
Yeah, that's crazy to me, anyways. It's like
Just
you go.
just concealed carry your phone, of course.
the Superteam case. Yeah. But no, I think it's super interesting and like innovational, something new again. What no one did really before, like just coming up with their own blockchain phone. And I think that hardware wallet aspect behind it with the seed vault is definitely a new type of technology. Which is also cool because like usually most of the time, if you think about crypto products, it's a lot of just software stuff, and actually having something like that is interesting. If it will succeed, difficult to say. I'm definitely also more the iOS Apple Power user, and I think most of the people are. Although I would say like Asian markets and so on, there's like probably way more people who are using also Android phones. So there is definitely some millions of people to onboard also if they're like Android users and are looking for blockchain phones.
Amazing. Carlo, we're at the hour. Where can people meet you? How can people contact you? Or like in general, how can people contact Superteam Germany or like any other super team in the world where they live?
I think best way is to go on our Twitter, follow us there. There's like a link tree linked. I'm always like my DMs on Telegram are always open. It's just CKs with double E. I can put it maybe later in the comments or something if anyone wants to contact me. Our Telegram is also just telegram.me/superteamgermany. It's a closed channel because we had a lot of scammers in there. It's basically application based, but I'm always looking who's like applying to join and approving them. Otherwise, if you're in Berlin, we are every Friday at W3 Hub. If you're in Munich, we're also hosting co-working Fridays down there. So we have like open co-working sessions every Friday in Berlin and Munich, and hopefully expanding that also to other cities in the future. Yeah, we have a hackathon upcoming, and most of the time, if those things are happening in Berlin, we are at W3 Hub. So this is like our kind of place we've been from the beginning on, and are very close community partners. But yeah, we are like going around Germany also for certain events. We have been now in Munich to a blockchain conference, before that in Dortmund. We're going to CBOS end of the month in Frankfurt. There's going to be some events. So yeah, wherever we are, you can find us. I think we're posting everything on Twitter every week with all the events and so on. And same should work for the other super teams if they're doing their work right.
Amazing. Well, thanks for your time. Very insightful. I would love to. Maybe we can do like a hackathon exclusive or something in a couple of weeks and see what projects come out of it.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'm always down to chat. It was a very warm conversation, and I enjoyed it with you. Thanks for inviting.
Likewise. Ciao,
It
ciao.
was great having you on. Have a good one.
Thank you. Ciao.